Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is our open spoiler discussion of Hawkeye, Episode 6. That's the season finale, and that's what we're here to talk about. Now, in case the title did not give it away, this is an open spoiler discussion. We're going to talk about all the different details, in detail, of all the things that happened in the Hawkeye Episode 6. So if you have not watched the episode yet, or, if you care about this stuff, then just add this to a favorites list or something and then come back a little bit later. But we are here to talk about Hawkeye, Episode 6. And here's what we're going to do. Most of this show today is going to be taking your opinions and your thoughts and observations and questions about it. If you're watching this live, and only if you're watching live, and you want to get in a comment, use the super chat feature in the YouTube chat there, and we will get around to it. And just so you know, I'm only going to be keeping the super chat feature on for a couple more minutes because we already have a lot of people who've submitted thoughts, opinions, observations, and everything. So I want to make sure we get through all of them here today. So if you got to send one in, send it in within the next couple of minutes because I'm going to be turning it off soon. But for now, let me just start things off here by telling you my basic general impressions of the episode and of the show overall as a whole. And if you watched the John Campea Show earlier today, I kind of gave a little bit of that inclination. First is this. I thought the finale was a disappointment. I was not a big fan of the finale. It was, for several levels. One, I think Kim Curran put it best today. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon. It was just kind of silly. That ultimate confrontation that we've been waiting for between Yelena and Clint, it was just, everything Clint told her was already public knowledge. Like the world already knows Black Widow sacrificed herself to save the world. Clint telling her that shouldn't have changed anything. She should have known that Clint and her were close, that Clint and Natasha were close. Just for them to get together finally and say to each other what we both already knew, each of them already knew, kind of became anticlimactic, to be quite honest with you. Like there should have been some kind of revelation, something like the fact that he knew the whistle. Really? That's not a big deal. Like she knows Natasha and Clint were close. So him knowing the whistle shouldn't have been the thing that goes, why did you say that name? Right? Really, basically, the whistle was kind of Hawkeye's version of the Batman versus Superman. Why did you say that name? That's exactly, it's like, okay, you already knew. There's not a big deal that he knows that you two had a whistle together. So that was anticlimactic. The whole thing about the mom was like so predictable. We called it from episode 1. She's probably the villain, and it turns out she kind of was. But in the actual revelation of her being a villain, there was nothing new added to the mix other than she initially got mixed in with Kingpin because the father had debts. Okay. But other than that, it just felt kind of, the conversation between Kate Bishop and her mom felt kind of anticlimactic. Like, it was okay, well, there's that, I suppose, whatever. All of a sudden, Kazi is a master at hand-to-hand combat. Like he thought he could go toe-to-toe with the Ronin, aka Hawkeye. I'm glad that fight went as quickly as it did, but why would he think there for a second? And also, isn't it amazing that Kazi is entrusted by Kingpin to be the sharpshooter across the building, and he never hit a single person? Unless I miss it. Guys in the live chat, help me out with that. But am I not right about that? Like maybe I'm mistaken. But as supposed to this master marksman who's sitting there across the thing, he never hit a single person. He let off like 20 rounds and he never hit a single person. It's like, what, why is he the guy over there? So there's that, the post-credit scene. Okay, look, I have kind of been thinking they should release like a bigger full musical number of Rogers the Musical, but not in the post-credit scene, the only post-credit scene of a series. And, Ray, as the song was going on and we realized we weren't going to get a real post-credit scene, and the song was going on, Avengers Assemble, blah, blah. Ray started singing, Kevin Feige says, fuck you. That's what it kind of felt like. Now, obviously, Kevin Feige would never say fuck you to the fans. I'm just saying it kind of felt like Kevin Feige was going, fuck you to the fans. That's what it kind of felt like in a way. So there was that as well. So the post-credit scene was disappointing. I think the most disappointing part about this, though, is Kingpin. Now, look, I have believed for a long time that the Kingpin we're going to get is not the same Kingpin from the Netflix universe. It's not the same Kingpin. It is the character Kingpin. It is played by Vincent D'Onofrio. But I've said for a long time, it's not going to be literally the same one that we saw in the Netflix series. That's a different iteration of Kingpin, even though he's being played here. Does anybody dispute that now? After watching episode 6, does anybody dispute that this is not the same Kingpin from the Netflix series? This was a completely different character. Now, and that's fine. I didn't need Kingpin to be the same Kingpin from the Netflix series. I was already kind of personally, I was perfectly fine with the idea that this was a different Kingpin than from the Netflix universe. Perfectly fine with that. So I didn't need it to be the same one. But this Kingpin was a clown. He was an absolute clown. Now, first of all, let's talk about, some people say, John, why do you think he wasn't the same Kingpin from the Netflix universe? First of all, he's sitting there, the Kingpin of the Netflix universe is refined. He has the highest of tastes. He wants the best in everything. He is sharp, calculated, and above all things, like, he just oozes wealth as well, right? You watch this thing. He's surrounded by the tracksuit mafia. Really? That's the guy who rules this city because of the tracksuit mafia. Really? On top of that, his office has a bunch of beads, like bead curtains and tacky, like everything just oozed tackiness. And then what was with him rocking the Hawaiian shirt? Rocking the Hawaiian shirt? I mean, there's that. When you look at the Netflix version of Kingpin, right? His advisors are of the highest intelligence. His rooms and offices and clothes are of the highest quality. He is cold and calculating. This Kingpin, oh, you don't want to work for me anymore, Eleanor? Oh, and you say you've got insurance planted around? I'm not worried about that. Kill her! Kill her right away. Like, if he's going to kill her right away, just grab her by the throat right there in his office and crunch her neck. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. But, and also, you know, the Kingpin in the Netflix universe wasn't supernatural. This Kingpin was supernatural, right? This Kingpin has superhuman abilities. Like, no human being can punch another human being in the stomach and send them flying 20 feet across a room. Or take arrow shots, or explosions, or pull doors off of cars and be hit by a car, unless they're Jason Voorhees. And that was kind of this Jason Voorhees. Again, none of that makes me not like the episode. Knowing that this is not the same Kingpin from the Netflix shows is not a problem for me. That's fine. But you got to still make it a good character. And this character was just a giant clown. He was just another big idiot member of the tracksuit mafia. And that was disappointing. And then, okay, look, here's the funny thing. They're on the subway. They say, okay, we got a few hours till tonight. How are we going to deal with tonight? Well, we're going to need some trick arrows. But you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of an 80s comedy when they have the outfit changing segments, musical montages. You know, when they go into the dressing room, come out in a different one, and the best friend goes, and then they go in, tries another outfit, and the best friend goes. Then they try another outfit, and the best friend's like, you know those? That's what the trick arrow thing was. It was a clothes changing montage. But here's the part that really rolled my eyes at it. It's like, really? You're building all these things, which are probably months long projects, but they're going to build all these trick arrows in like 2 hours before the dinner party tonight. They're putting together all these intricate things is like in 2 hours. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. What they should have said is they should have had, you know, Clint say, we're going to need trick arrows. She goes, we're going to get trick arrows. And he goes and pulls out a secret stash of big trick arrows. And that would have been better, but you know, whatever, that's fine too. Anyway, yeah, I mean, there were some good moments too. Like everything about Yelena and Kate Bishop, even when they're fighting, their dialogue together, being in the elevator together, I got to tell you, I was charmed by it. I thought that was pretty funny. I enjoyed that stuff. You know, I pretty much enjoyed everything in the series when it was Yelena and Kate Bishop together. I liked all that stuff, to be honest with you. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. I was kind of on the fence about Hawkeye. Didn't like it after the first 2 episodes. Episodes 3 and 4 kind of got me back on. I quite liked episode 5 a lot. And so it was all coming down to the final episode. Did they stick the landing? And to me, they didn't stick the landing. And really, all of a sudden, there's 500 members of the Tracksuit Mafia. All of a sudden, there's 500 members of the Tracksuit Mafia. And they're all down there. And by the way, there's been gunfire and everything right in the heart of downtown New York. And no cop shows up for 20 minutes. And then the LARPers just put on their LARPer costumes. Oh, now everybody will listen. They're like, these people aren't listening to us. Well, let's take 20 minutes and go change into our LARPing outfits. That'll solve everything. And then, whatever. Okay. And then there's the whole finale with Echo shooting thing. I mean, Kingpin's obviously not dead. This version of Kingpin is clearly not dead. I mean, if he was going to be dead, they would have had that on camera. You don't cut away from that dramatic moment. So clearly Kingpin's not dead. And who's to say the bullet shots are going to do anything anyway? The guy was literally just hit by a car through a window. The guy was literally just standing on top of explosives. The guy literally just got penetrated by arrows. So either she didn't shoot him, or B, he did get shot, but he's going to live. Either way, this Kingpin's not dead. That's fine. The Kingpin's not dead. So there's that. Anyway, overall, I was just pretty disappointed all the way around with the finale. And then ultimately, I think this is the first Marvel Disney Plus series that I don't like. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. I loved WandaVision. I liked Falcon and Winter Soldier. I liked Loki. I don't like Hawkeye. And it was really too bad too, because I thought episode 5 gave me a lot of hope that they could really crush the landing on this, and then it just didn't. Anyway, guys, that's kind of my take on it. That's my take on it. You may agree and you may disagree. I'm sure there's some points we agree on. I'm sure there's some points we disagree on. But now we're going to go over for the rest of our time together here and just hear from you guys and hear what you guys have to say about all this. And I am now going to turn off the super chat. So you got about 5 seconds left to get into super chat if you want to get one in. And then we'll just go on and start hearing from you guys. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there we go. Super chats have now been turned off. All right. So now let's get on over to it and hear from you guys. First up, we've got the Iberian Troll who writes in, it's clear this is not the same Kingpin from the Daredevil show. Absolutely. No way that iteration would survive being hit by a car and rammed through glass, or have an explosion go off in front of him, or shot through the heart with an arrow, and everything else too. But also to me, it's not about that. It's just look at the character and how he carries himself and how he surrounds himself. This is not the same Wilson Fisk from the Daredevil series. I mean, they may come along later and say that it is, in which case I'll think that's a terrible mistake on their part because they've done it so inconsistently. But yeah, to me, I agree. It's pretty much clear that it's not the same one. All right. Next one. We got Pelican Mike who writes, hey, John, Hawkeye overall might not be the worst thing the MCU has done to this point, but this finale just might be. So disappointed, just did not work. I agree. Almost every element was not horrible, but almost every element failed to work. And there is a difference between failing to work and being horrible. But I agree, the finale just didn't work for me either, Pelican Mike. Marie Seifring writes, I was pleasantly surprised they did a 5+ minute post-credit scene to actually show us the two or three songs from Rogers the Musical. Listen, here's the thing. I am glad that we got to see the full numbers from Roger the Musical. I'm glad about that. What I'm not glad about is that was the post-credit scene of the MCU. Now look, you can say, well, Judd, Star Wars doesn't have post-credit scenes. Yeah, I get that. But with MCU properties, particularly the Disney Plus shows, we've gone through 3 of them now, it has become a part of the DNA of a Marvel property, particularly a Disney Plus Marvel property, that we look forward to and with anticipation to a true post-credit scene. Whether it's something that gives us a new layer of dimension of, ooh, about the show or the movie we just saw, or whether it's something that opens up a door and gives hints to what is to come. Either way, Marvel has set us up to expect that and to look forward to it. And for them to use the post-credit scene when they've never done any other post-credit scenes in the entire series, as the time to drop the Rogers the Musical. I thought that was a poor decision. Again, I'm glad they showed us the scenes, the musical scenes. I just wish there was another way they showed it to us and still gave us a legitimate post-credit scene, but that's just me. All right, next up. Patrick Conway writes, I really loved Hawkeye, a fun Christmas action series, and getting Kingpin back, even just for episodes, was great. Hope we get a proper Daredevil show soon. Well, Patrick, I'm glad you liked it. I mean, seriously, I am. I'm jealous. I wish I were you, and I wish I was able to also have that enjoyment. I wish I could have enjoyed it, but to me, it just kind of fell a little bit flat. But hey, that's the beautiful thing, man. It's all subjective. That's the way it hit me. Clearly, it hit you in such a way that made it a lot more enjoyable, and that's awesome. All right, Patrick also writes, I hope we get Hawkeye and Mockingbird series, more in the tone of the Russo brothers movies. Can I mention the Mockingbird thing? This is another thing that really frustrated me at the end. When Lauren turns the watch over and there's the shield thing, right? So clearly there's a Mockingbird implication there, right? I'm watching like, really? Like, this whole show started with, there's this underground auction and there's this watch and everybody's worried about this watch, and the tracksuit mafia was after the watch, and Echo wanted the watch, and Clint had to get the watch back, and blah, blah, blah. And really, all of that was just so in the final moments of the season, she can just turn the watch over and see a SHIELD logo, implying she's mocking. Really, that's what that was all about. That's what that was all about. I felt very, very disappointed by that, to be honest with you. Yeah, anyway. All right. Marie Seifring writes, Clint, Kate, where's our backup? Clint sees the LARPers as he hangs in the Christmas tree. Yeah, we're all going to die. Clint's dry humor. Yeah, but here's a question. What backup was Clint referring to? Like when Clint says to her, where's our backup? Well, if it wasn't the LARPers he was referring to, who or what was Clint referring to? Who is this backup he's referring to? Who does he think that he and Kate had arranged to come and be their backup? So that part was a little bit confusing to me. Okay, next up, we've got... that was Marie. The CTB channel writes, Hawkeye felt like it isn't very important to the MCU, but I did enjoy the ground level perspective. I would enjoy more shows like this if done better. I don't disagree with you about that. You heard me say a lot. It's important for the MCU and all comic book movies to shift gears. Not everything can be about saving the universe or saving the planet. Sometimes it has to be a more grounded, smaller scope story. You got to keep changing gears or else it's going to get boring that every single thing is, oh, we got to save the planet. Oh, we got to save the planet. Oh, we got to save the universe. It'll get kind of dry pretty fast if you do that. So I did like that. So I'm agreeing with you. If it was done better, I think I would have really enjoyed a Hawkeye series about Clint Barton finding this young protege, and there's a street level threat that they need to deal with, and it comes to conclusion. If done well, I think that could have worked, but I just didn't feel like it was done very well overall. Better than I could have done, but I mean, that's not saying much, is it? All right, Fanimator writes, best post-credit scene in the MCU, smash. Again, I'm glad I'm glad we got to see the scenes. I just didn't think this should have been a post-credit scene. That's just me. All right, A3 writes, not my favorite Disney Plus MCU series, but I liked it overall. My big takeaway is Florence Pugh and Haley made me smile whenever they were on screen together. I agree with that, A3. I think that was, Clint just being Hawkeye, I think was the best part of the series. But the next best part was whenever Yelena and Kate were together. I did like the dynamic between them. I was totally eating it up when that was happening. So to me, that was one of the strengths of the show. I agree. Cam K writes, liked it, enjoyed it, had fun, but the post-credit scene felt like such a waste. Would have been cool to see Val respond to Yelena or Al and Mini Bros. I mean, it could have been anything. I don't care what they would have put in there. I just think they should have done something. They have conditioned the MCU fan base that there's always some kind of significant post-credit scene. And while enjoyed seeing the Rogers musical scene. It should have been something else, anything else, but whatever. Or showed the musical scenes, played more credits, and then had another post-credit scene where you actually gave us something. I don't know. This is just my take. All right. Cam K writes, I will say this. They executed trick arrows amazingly. I geeked out. Loved it. Hope to see more of them in the future. Can I say this too about a problem I had with the trick arrows? Here's a problem I had with the trick arrows. There were many, many shots that Kate and Clint took that were just pure arrows taking people down, right? A lot of arrows got fired into some tracksuit mafia shoulders or legs or whatever that put them down, right? And then they started shooting off trick arrows that literally did nothing that a regular arrow would have done. For example, they cock up and load up the trick arrow that hits the guy and it wraps him up in this energy beam and he falls over. Okay. But a regular arrow would have taken him down too. Why was a trick arrow needed? And if you go back and watch it now, there were a number of trick arrows that clearly did a lot more than any singular arrow did. But I'd say at least 1/3 of the trick arrows did nothing that a regular arrow would have done. Hit the target to immobilize or take out the target. Regular arrows did that. They used a lot of regular arrows. Anyway, that just kind of stood out to me as I was watching the scene. All right. Let's see. Next up. Marie Seifring writes, I had fun with this series and I'm glad Clint and Yelena both got to say goodbye to Natasha in a way, but I thought the overall story was unfocused. Yeah, I mean, I said on the John Campea Show earlier today that it kind of felt like Hawkeye didn't have a sense of its own identity. But I don't mean the character, I mean the show. It feels like the show Hawkeye didn't have a true sense of its own identity. And you could feel that unevenness and that unfocusedness. Now, overall, I thought the Clint-Yelena entire interaction sequence was wasted, but the end of that sequence, when they just both talked about how they loved Natasha and kind of had, you're right, in their own way say goodbye to Natasha, that was a good moment. I give it that. That was a good moment. I just thought overall the scene was kind of wasted. All right. Corey Fraser writes, and sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Corey. And he's 1 of 7. All right, buckle up. Let me take a sip of my water here. Corey writes, hey, John, I enjoyed the entire series of Hawkeye. Was it the best Marvel has provided us? Absolutely not, but I had fun with every episode. I love the Yelena/Kate interaction, so did I. I could watch a series of just them. I probably could too. The watch was another thing that the fans made into a bigger deal than the show. Yes, the show started with Echo stealing it, but it became clear it was connected to someone Clint had a strong relationship with. I'm going to disagree with you there, Corey. The show made a big deal out of it. Because when you make a big deal, when you focus on it and say the watch, and then the previously on Hawkeye, that's the watch, the show made a big deal out of it. There are other things in the MCU that we as fans made a big deal out of, but the show did make it seem, it did set it up that the watch was a big deal, not just some throwaway character reveal at the end. Like the show made it feel like it was a big deal. Anyway, plus the way Laura knew everything and was able to do things, it was clear she had to be the owner. I really would like to see her suit up in the near future. Probably won't happen, but I'd enjoy it. The SHIELD logo and 19 was simple and effective. The resolution between Clint and Yelena was kind of whatever, but it was fine to me. So I agreed with you on that being meh. Lastly, Kingpin, no way is he dead. No, there's no way he's dead. Even if we saw Echo shoot him in the face and he fall over with his face exploded, it's the MCU. He's not dead. The fact that it was done off camera, absolutely 100% he's not dead. Anyway, that was just a comic tease to when Echo shot it. Yes, it was. And there he will be in her show. I'm curious to see more of this version of Wilson Fisk. As I wasn't disappointed at all, since the show stated that this Kingpin was a guy who almost lost everything due to Ronin, so it makes sense he wouldn't be as powerful. He was still very powerful and was kicking ass. Kate only won due to the arrows. Agreed. Thanks for all that you do and for listening to my ramblings. Bring on the filthy. No, listen, one of the complaints that I do not have, that I've heard a lot of other people have, was that they made Kingpin a jobber. But in reality, I have no qualms with how his fight with Kate Bishop went because he beat her ass. I mean, he fucking destroyed her. And only because there was a bunch of arrows sitting around, like explosive trick arrows sitting around on the ground that he happened to be standing on. That's what saved her skin. That's what got her to survive. So I hate when they job, obviously more powerful characters. They didn't job Kingpin. Kingpin was not a jobber here. They clearly showed he vastly outclassed Kate Bishop and was beating the living shit out of her. But she took advantage of an opening, set off an explosive that he was standing on, and managed to survive. That's fine. So I personally didn't think he was a jobber. That's one thing I've heard people complaining about, but with all my complaints about this Kingpin, that's not one of them. I didn't feel like they made him a jobber. So that's my take on it. And listen, again, the beautiful thing about these shows and stories is that we all experience them different ways. And if you liked it, that's awesome. I'm not going to yuck on your yum. I'm just telling you, my experience was a little bit different, and that's fine. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, man, more than me, because one of us had to enjoy it more. All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, Corey. And thanks for laying out all your thoughts so clearly on that. Appreciate it, man. All right. Next up, Cam K writes, might get this a lot, but what the F is Kingpin, a super soldier or mutant? No ordinary man of any size can pull off the feats he did in this episode. Yeah, now you can say that in the Daredevil show, he probably exuded strengths above what a normal person could do from time to time. But so does Batman, and he's just a regular hero, just a regular human. But this was different. Literally ripping the door off of a car, surviving being hit by a car through a shop, surviving standing on explosives, taking arrows to his chest and just going, and saying nothing but, this girl's starting to irritate me, in his Hawaiian shirt. Yeah. So I don't know what they were implying. I personally, I think you're right. There is an implied idea here that the Wilson Fisk of this universe is more than just human. I think he's more than just regular human, because no human can punch another human in the stomach and it literally sends them 20 feet flying through the air and crashing through something like what he did to Kate Bishop. And by the way, Kate Bishop being a regular human being, no force can hit a regular human being that would knock them 20 feet across a room without shattering all their ribs. So the fact that she was just like, oh, okay, I'm back on my feet and I'm fine now. I mean, it's like, come on. She's a regular human. If she got crushed with a shot that would do that, her internal organs are mush and her ribs are all broken. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? But whatever. Yeah, I agree. It does seem a little bit like this universe's Wilson Fisk has something more going on. Whether he has some kind of semblance of a super soldier serum, whether he is some sort of mutant, I don't know. We'll have to see what they do, because there's no way he's dead. Okay, next up. Sam Fisher writes, one of two. This Kingpin is fundamentally different. Let me try it again. This Kingpin is a fundamentally different character than the Netflix Kingpin, no doubt. This Kingpin has a different speech pattern. He is less socially awkward, and Netflix's Kingpin wouldn't be caught dead in a Hawaiian shirt and gold chain. Yes, indeed. Netflix's Kingpin also seemed to prefer anonymity as opposed to this Kingpin. And the Kingpin of the Netflix universe would never be just the head of the tracksuit mafia. Just wouldn't be a thing. It just wouldn't be a thing. So again, they may say otherwise later. If so, that'll be a mistake on their part, because it'll be totally inconsistent. But for now, Sam, I'm totally on the same page as you. This is not the Netflix's Kingpin. It's a different Kingpin altogether, being played by the same guy, Vincent D'Onofrio. By the way, can I just say, even though I didn't like this Kingpin very much, it's awesome to see Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin again. Hello, Eleanor. Yeah, I didn't like this Kingpin all that much. I thought this Kingpin was a waste. It is a dollar store version of the real Kingpin. That being said, it was still awesome to see Vincent D'Onofrio back in the role. Like that was still pretty cool for me to see. All right, anyway. Vanessa. All right, Marie Seifring writes, when Clint teaches Kate how to make trick arrows, I was reminded of the Terminator when Kyle teaches Sarah Connors how to make pipe bombs. Yeah, that's a little bit reminiscent. Again, to me, though, it was like, really? You're going to make these super high-tech things from scratch in a couple of hours? Really? That was just a little bit of a stretch. But yes, it did remind me. But it also reminded me a lot of, like I said, the clothes changing montages a little bit. All right, next up. Edgar Navarro writes, I enjoyed the series. It was great for me. The post-credit scene was amazing, and maybe I'm biased because I fancy myself an Archer too. Hey, listen, man, do not apologize and don't make excuses for it. If you like the series, there ain't nothing wrong with that, dude. You proclaim it that you love that series. I got a bunch of stuff that I love that a bunch of other people don't like, and it doesn't matter. I mean, listen, even somebody like me who's saying overall the series didn't work for me, I think there were good things about the series. I thought there were entire good episodes. Like, I don't think this thing's a piece of trash. So yeah, maybe you and I come to a different final conclusion. It really worked for you. It didn't really work for me, but that's totally okay, man. If you love it, and you celebrate that, Edgar. All right, next up. Edgar also writes, I also to rank: number 1, WandaVision. Number 2, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Number 3, Hawkeye. Number 5, What If? Number 4, What If? Number 5, Loki. Love the show, John. Thank you for this platform and Merry Christmas. And Merry Christmas to all of you as well. I'm pretty close to you. Obviously, number 1 for me is WandaVision. I think number 2 for me is also Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think 3 for me would be Loki. 4 would be Hawkeye. And 5 would be What If? So I liked Hawkeye a little bit more than What If, but yeah, because again, remember, I didn't hate Hawkeye. I didn't hate it at all. Actually, if this was a good final episode, I think I overall would have enjoyed the show, but I just kind of missed the landing on that. Anyway, thanks for being here, Edgar. Next up, Murray Reich writes, 1 of 2. I thought the finale was disappointing. Had some cool moments with Kingpin, but I didn't like how it ended with him. I hope we see more of him. End credit, I hated because it wasn't an actual post-credit scene. I agree. Music was great though. The scene between Yelena and Clint was emotional, but great. Overall, the series is not as great as its predecessors. Yeah, I struggle to disagree with much of what you're saying there, Murray. Again, I didn't like the overall, I thought it was very surface when Yelena finally confronts Clint, because neither of them revealed to each other anything they shouldn't have already known. But the final moments of that, again, with them getting emotional, remembering Natasha, both professing that they love Natasha, and, that was a nice moment. I didn't like the overall sequence between them, but the final moments of that sequence I thought were very well done, and I thought it hit a good emotional note. But pretty much, Murray, everything else you said, I'm pretty much on board with. I think I agree with you, man. All right, next up, K Major writes, was it really necessary for Kate to bring down the Christmas tree? Seems like an unnecessary move. Yeah, he's in a tree. This was bothering me a little bit. I'll be honest with you. This is Hawkeye, who has dived off of buildings to fire off a cable and swing through broken pane glass window. He's in a tree. Can he not climb down the tree? Can he not get some other way out? Was it really necessary to chop down the tree and literally have him fall? I agree. That seemed unnecessary and unwise. Unnecessary and unwise. Somebody's saying I missed something. What did I miss? Who did I miss? There's another Sam Fisher one that I missed. Thank you guys in the live chat for letting me know that I missed one. Okay, Sam Fisher. Sorry, Sam, I missed your third one there. Did you notice the cufflink Kate flicks is the same cufflink that the Netflix Kingpin always wore and said was his father's? Yeah, that was brought up earlier today. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, because if it's the same actor playing Kingpin, looks the same shaved head, all that kind of stuff. The fact that he had the same cufflinks that was in another show, I don't really think that's all that meaningful. I don't think it has much meaning to it at all, but it is a little bit of an attention to detail thing, Sam. I think you're right about that. All right. Let's see. Next up, we go to Ben Rayner, who writes, I did not watch Daredevil, not a fan of the character, so I have nothing to compare it to, but I loved Kingpin in this. So intense and menacing. Kate was putty in his hands. So tough. In my opinion, he was great. Loved him. You know what, Ben? Here's the thing. First of all, I'm not a big Daredevil character fan either. The show is one of the best comic book shows in the history of television. And I say this as a guy who's not grown up. I'm a big Daredevil. I've never been a big Daredevil fan. You're Do yourself a favor, Ben. Watch Daredevil. And I wonder if maybe I wouldn't have had a different opinion if I had never seen the best iteration of Kingpin we've ever had, which is in that Daredevil show. Maybe I would have seen this Daredevil or this Kingpin through a slightly different lens. Maybe through a slightly different lens. But that being said, Ben, brother, do yourself a favor. It doesn't matter if you're not a natural Daredevil fan. It don't matter. Watch the Daredevil series. It's one of the finest, again, one of the finest comic book series ever on television. So definitely go check it out. I think you're going to be really, really glad that you did. All right. Next up, K Major writes, I would be okay not hearing the word bro for the next 3 or 4 words. Hey, bro. Even calling Kate Bishop bro. By the way, guys, which band did he end up go seeing? They didn't go see Imagine Dragons. Who else was it they went to go see? Guys in the live chat, help me up with that. What band did he end up saying that they actually went to go watch? I can't remember, but Maroon 5. That's right. Thank you, James and Zishan and Itchy and everybody else. So we went up going to see Maroon 5, bro. Okay, you want me to be honest? Here's the thing. While they are a ridiculous pack of gangsters, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I was warming up to at least the charming comedic side of the Tracksuit Mafia. Like, even when they're jumping out of the truck, let's go, bro. And referring to everybody as bro. I actually started to giggle every time I heard it. I mean, again, they are ridiculous as mobsters, right? This is the elite troop of the Kingpin. These are the elite troops of Kingpin. Really? That being said, like I said, I'd be lying to you a little bit if I didn't say that. It was starting to grow on me a bit. I probably shouldn't have. All right. K Major writes, and he sends like a $20 super chat to be supportive. Thank you, K Major. Appreciate that, man. I didn't watch the Netflix show, so I don't have a proper understanding of the Kingpin character from there. So he seemed okay, I guess. His fighting style was questionable. Seems like a low-level move to fight Kate. Yeah, I mean, but again, I have no qualms. And seriously, K Major, go and watch. You don't have to watch any of the other Netflix series, to be honest with you, but watch Daredevil seasons 1 through 3. And I would also include in that Punisher season 1 and 2. To me, those are the only must-watch seasons of Netflix Marvel stuff. But I honestly, you're going to want to add that to your repertoire. You're absolutely going to want to add that to your repertoire. You absolutely want to go watch those. And yeah, I have no qualms with the fight with Kate Bishop. I thought it went exactly the way a fight between Kingpin and Kate Bishop should have gone. He beat the living shit out of her. She used her ingenuity to come up with something to get out of it alive. I was okay with that. I still didn't like the iteration of Kingpin, but I had no qualms with the way that fight went down. So that was just me. All right. Thanks for writing that in, K Major, man. I appreciate it, dude. All right. Nicholas Class writes, I really liked Hawkeye episodes 1 through 5. The finale, though, felt like a complete parody of itself and the MCU. The Kate and Yelena scenes felt like I was watching a live-action Eric Cartman versus Kyle fight. Woo! Woo! Them's are fighting words. Those are harsh words right now. I'll be honest. See, here's the funniest thing, Nicholas, is I didn't like the episode either, but that one part, the Kate Yelena stuff, is actually a part of it that actually worked for me. That part actually worked for me, that fight, but that's harsh. It felt like Eric Cartman versus Kyle fight. Oh, that's throwing down right there. That is throwing down right there, Nicholas. All right, next up, K Major writes, they focused a lot on the LARPing crew. Yes, they did. That seemed odd to me. We should not have seen them after the party evacuation anymore. Again, I just didn't understand that entire scene. Everybody over there, huh? Nobody's listening to us. Then it's time. And literally while people are trying to evacuate, they think, you know what we've got time to do right now? Let's run back inside the building, find our outfits, get changed, come back out, and then start directing traffic again. Like, really? I don't know. It just seemed like a very, very odd choice to me. Okay, anyway, Cam K writes, Overall, I enjoyed the show. I would call it a win. As of now, it's tied with Falcon and the Winter Soldier for me. Looking forward to seeing Kate again. I'm glad. Like I said, I can totally see this being something some people would enjoy. Because even me, I think there are 3 episodes that I liked. Like I liked 3, 4, and I quite liked 5. Unfortunately for me, episodes 1 and 2 was a bit of a bust, and then episode 6, the finale. Man, it is important to stick the landing. It's difficult to stick the landing, but it's important to stick the landing. And yeah, I didn't like, the final episode was just kind of a letdown for me. But hey, again, it could easily go the other way. If a couple of other things worked for me, it would have been a win for me too. So I'm glad it was for you, Cam. All right, Fang Blaze writes, in my opinion, this was the weakest MCU show, but definitely had the best finale. Really? Just didn't like how Clint basically yet Yelena beat him up. Well, I mean, it's funny because most people seem to think the opposite. Like a lot of people liked the show, but didn't like the finale. But you thought it was the weakest show, but you really liked the finale. Interesting. I didn't mind how the Clint and Yelena fight went either, because, once again, Clint got her in the choke, and he wasn't trying to hurt her. He didn't want to hurt her. He wasn't out trying to hurt her. And, at some point, unless you fight back, she's going to get the upper hand. And I thought the fight went great. I mean, I honestly had no problem with the fight itself. Again, it was just the dialogue between them. It was wait, why did you say that name? I mean, really? That's the big turning point? That was odd to me, Fangblaze. I got to admit, that was odd to me. All right, K Major writes, doesn't the Kingpin have lieutenants? No, I'm not talking about Kazi. Lame. This is not the same Kingpin. This is clearly not the same Kingpin from the Netflix universe. And if they ever say that it is, then it's a dumb move on their part because it's so radically inconsistent. K Major also writes, I would have rather they revisit Hawkeye's demon with letting Nat go and mirror that with not letting Yelena go in the flip situation just to spitball. Yeah, but that would have been if they had done that, that kind of would have been pretty stereotypical, right? Like we just sort of had that in Spider-Man No Way Home. And we have a lot of things like, oh, this is just like my prior situation, but this time it's going to be different, right? It would have felt a little stereotypical if they had done that. I didn't mind that they ultimately just confront each other and have to fight it out. I just wish they would have brought it to a conclusion a little better. I like the conclusion. I just thought they could have brought it to a conclusion a little bit better. Okay. Let's see here. Next up, we've got... K Major also writes, the I Can Do This All Day clip should have been saved for the standalone video that was just thrown onto Disney+. Oh, I agree. Yeah. And I like the number. I can do this all day. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Just put it up on Disney+. Didn't have to be the post-credit scene. I agree with you, K Major. All right, Ismail Montoya writes, you were right, John. The MCU is overdoing itself. That's a bigger issue for a bigger discussion, but yes, I am starting to fear that by doubling its content output, I fear the overall quality of the MCU is starting to drop. And I love Shang-Chi, and I love Spider-Man No Way Home. But now each new thing that comes up, it's a coin flip about whether I'll actually love it or if I'll just like it. Yeah, in the last little while, we've had No Way Home, Shang-Chi, WandaVision. Love, love, love. Love those 3. But we also had Falcon, Winter Soldier, which I like. Loki, which I like. Black Widow, which I like. Eternals, which I quite like, but I don't love. But I think I like Eternals quite a bit. And now Hawkeye, which I didn't like. That means out of the last 8 things that Marvel has put out, I've only loved 3 of them. And over the past probably 10 years, for every 8 things, I probably end up loving at least 6 of them. Now they put out the last 8 and I love 3. And again, this is a bigger topic for another video, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. As a huge Marvel fan, I am worrying, and I have worried for a while, that them more than doubling the amount of output they're doing, that quality would suffer. And I feel like the quality is suffering. Now, who knows? Maybe the next 5 things in a row they put out we'll love. Like deeply, deeply love. And if so, awesome. But I'm a little bit worried about it. I'm not going to lie. A little bit worried about it. All right, next up. Suthius writes, might just be me, but the line, "Is that what heroes do? Arrest their mothers on Christmas?" is such a stupid sounding line. I agree. What the hell were they thinking even writing that line? That's not a line Eleanor would say. Anyway, was not impressed with Farmiga in this show. Her acting seems hollow to me. I thought her acting was fine. I thought the character was badly written. A badly written character that never was consistent with what was actually going on in the character's life, and then suddenly is pulling out all these bullshit lines at the end. And remember, we called from episode 1, she's probably the villain. And sure enough, she was. But I mean, it was just so predictable. It was just so predictable. Anyway, let's see. Next up, Milo writes, I hope the next Marvel series just unveils the big villain straight away. All the Marvel shows so far have saved them until the end as the big reveal. It worked for WandaVision, but I'm bored of it now. I'm not bored of it, but you got to do it right every time. And I agree. It'd be nice if we just meet who is the antagonist, who's our foil right away, and then have the show be about the conflict between our hero and the villain, rather than every time. You know, WandaVision, we don't find out till near the end. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I mean, that was a little bit more straightforward, right? Yes, we were waiting for the reveal of who the power broker is, but at the end of the day, the power broker wasn't the big bad guy. I mean, the other conflicts were, so I'll give it that. But Loki was like that. WandaVision was like that. Hawkeye was like that. So yeah, I would like to see them do it a little differently too, man. I think that's a good point. All right, next up. K Major writes, where are we at? There he is. K Major writes, John, I live in New York City and I could tell you the response time of the New York City Police Department is about 3 minutes to 5 minutes. How they were able to carry on for 15 minutes in an all-out brawl that involved guns and bats is beyond me in one of the busiest areas of the city. Yeah. I mean, especially when, first of all, like, when at all did they suggest that there was like literally 1,000 members of the Tracksuit Mafia all dressed the same, and they all just come running down the stairs? And really, you have 100 Tracksuit Mafia guys standing around, assuming with guns, and you have Clint and whoever else is with him at the time standing in the middle of the ice, pure open shot. You're telling me not one of those guys could just take a shot and hit that clear open target? Bro. Come on, bro. I mean, Ray does the voice better than I do. But yeah, and no police show up. It's not until after the whole fight's over that you hear that you finally hear the sirens in the distance. That was a little bit of a stretch. At any rate, next up, we go to Mark Netto, who writes, too many stories to wrap up in Hawkeye, made them so thin to make a satisfactory ending. Yeah, I mean, what was it? I think it was CNN's thing. Let me look this up for a second. Hold a second. CN Hawkeye finale. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah. I really liked what CNN's headline on what you were just talking about there, Mark. Is actually very similar, because they said the following. They said, if I can get this up on screen, pardon me for a second as I try to get it. Did I get it here? Yes, there it is. Hawkeye takes aim at too many targets with its very busy finale. And I think that goes to what you were saying about the fact that it was a hard time trying to bring all that to conclusion. So I think that's a good observation on your part. All right, next up, Tim Platt writes, how I felt about this episode pretty much echoes how I feel about the series as a whole. It's fine, just fine. I'll probably forget it by next week. And you know what? I'm saying overall I didn't like it, but it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I lean more towards a little bit less than fine. But yeah, I mean, I thought the finale was more than just not fine. Like, I thought the finale was poor. I think when I look back on Hawkeye, ultimately there are 3 episodes I didn't like and 3 episodes I did. So I'll probably ultimately say, I didn't really like it, but I guess it's fine. I mean, I'll probably be the same way as you, Tim, to a degree. All right. José Miez writes, the episode was awesome. Seeing Kingpin back was awesome. But this Kingpin is from Daredevil season 3. This Kingpin is from Daredevil season 3, probably years later. Oh my God, Agent 19 was Mockingbird. I completely disagree with you. Not that you loved it. That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I'm glad you thought it was great. That's awesome. But I completely disagree with you that this is the same Kingpin. There is nothing other than the fact that it was D'Onofrio playing him. There's nothing in here to even remotely suggest that this is the same Kingpin. I mean, honestly, if it was a different actor playing D'Onofrio, nobody would think for 1 second it was the same Kingpin. At least I don't think so. So that I love that you liked this show and that you thought it was great and you had a great time with it. That's awesome. I celebrate that with you, man. But I got to disagree with you that if you think that was the same Kingpin, you might end up being right. But for now, I'm gonna disagree. All right. Tim Platt writes, I was starting to get annoyed that the post-credits at the post-credit scene was just a clip from that musical, which I did like, but then I imagined getting lectured by Captain America about disappointment. Well, okay, well said. But again, I like that scene too. I liked it, but not as the post-credit scene. You know what I mean? Not as the post-credit scene. I thought there should have been something more. And there was certainly an opportunity to be more. Like, go back to that alley after we hear the gunshot go off. Have something with, I don't know, something with Kate. Or, I don't know, or something about, the Mockingbird. I don't know, anything. All right, next up. We go to John K., who writes, where are we at here? Season finales of WandaVision, Falcon the Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye all have ended with the hero getting a new suit. I bet this trend continues for more Marvel shows. I didn't think about that, but that's true. Now, Wanda getting a new suit and Hawkeye getting a new suit weren't really super relevant to the story. Falcon getting the Captain America suit, his version of a Captain America suit, that was incredibly relevant to the story. So they're kind of on different levels. But yeah, you're right. So there's a little bit of a pattern there. There is a bit of a pattern there, John K. All right, next up. John Redcorn writes, Spider-Verse did Kingpin better than this. He was more menacing and had a lot of emotion and reasoning to his actions. None of that is here. He's a total geek. First of all, there's nothing wrong with being a geek. I'm just going to point that out. Nothing wrong with being a geek. Says the guy in a Venom Christmas sweater. Nothing wrong with being a geek. But I agree. I mean, the Kingpin in Spider-Verse is awesome. Look out. Here comes a Spider-Man. I loved the Kingpin. And I mean, that was just, it's the best Spider-Man movie ever. So I love that. Yes, but nothing wrong with being a geek, John Redcorn. All right. Robert Zaleski writes, unpopular opinion. Kingpin was a waste and caused the finale to be too overstuffed. Could have teased him and fleshed him out in another show. That's not that unpopular of an opinion, Robert. I think we're hearing from a lot of people. We're hearing from a lot of people that just did not like. And again, I don't care that I'm fine that it's not the same Kingpin from Netflix. That's cool with me. I'm totally good with that. But at least make him good. This is just I am Kingpin. Behold my Hawaiian shirt. Grrr. I don't know. It did feel like a bit of a waste to me. All right. Vincent Taylor writes, one of two. Hey, John, the Hawkeye finale was a disappointment. The MCU Kingpin is a watered-down and goofy version of the Netflix version of Kingpin. Hopefully, they don't do the same to Daredevil and to the other Defenders. Also, what a waste of a post-credit scene. Yeah, Vincent, I mean, that's kind of been pretty much... that's pretty much been the refrain from most people. This is a Walmart dollar store bargain bin version of the Netflix Kingpin. It's okay if it's a different iteration. It's okay if you do them differently, but at least make them good. And I think they kind of struggled at doing that. All right, next up. Joshua Racco writes, hey, John, Hawkeye is up in a tree that he could easily climb down from. I know, I'll chop it down. So stupid. What a pointless show. 4 out of 10. Yeah, again, that to me made no sense. Really, the safest way to get him down is to just chop the tree down? That's the safest thing to do? And Hawkeye, who can like scale mountains, he couldn't climb down a tree? Oh, but there's the adorable baby owl. Okay, yeah, the owl is adorable. But really? I'm seriously watching this. I'm like, are you telling me Hawkeye can't climb down a tree? Hawkeye can't climb down a tree. Is that where we're at? John, it's not just any tree. You know, it's very complicated. There's a lot of branches, a lot of pines. And yeah, I get that. You're telling me Hawkeye could not climb down a tree. Somebody make that t-shirt. Hawkeye can't climb down a tree. That's where we're at. But John, there were a lot of branches. Yeah, sure are. Sure are a lot of branches. Yeah, but Hawkeye can't climb down a tree. Okay, sure. I'll come along for that ride. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. All right. Next up. Let's see. Dobson family. The Dobson family writes. I love this series and the finale. I watched it with my 74-year-old mom, and she loved it too. Thinking Kingpin didn't die with the way it was shot. Oh, there is no doubt about that, Dobson. Like I said, even if they showed him getting shot in the face and we saw the bullet come out the back of his shattering skull, I'd still go, well, he's not dead. It's the MC fake death universe. The fact that they had the gunshot, the death happened off camera, that's 100% guarantee he's not dead. 100% Dobson. You're 100% on the mark with that. All right. Delusional Patriots fan writes, shout out to Jack living his best life. You know what? I will say this too. I hated the Jack character when this show started. Hated him. I ended by episode 5. I was like, you know what? I'm really starting to like this character. Like when he was being arrested in episode 5, just as, this is so silly. I totally understand of the mix up. Let's go to the station. I'll get this all cleared up. I don't know. There was something about the swordsman that really started to grow on me. And I hated that character at first. Hated him, but he actually kind of started to grow on me. And yeah, the sword fighting at the end. And by the way, there is no way to non-lethally fight somebody when all you're fighting with is a sword. It's like, oh, I got a bit of blood on me. Yes, that's because you just murdered about 12 people, Jack. You just slayed about 12 people. Oh, a bit of blood on me. Ha ha. Whatever. I ended up thinking he was pretty great. All right. Next up. Where are we at? John Redcorn writes, other than that, I thought the show was extremely mediocre. Between this and Black Widow, maybe you were right, John. We didn't need standalone Hawkeye and Black Widow projects. I'm just saying, look, I have said for years that I love the Hawkeye character and I love the Black Widow character and how they are used in the MCU. And I love it when they're there. I mean, Hawkeye is one of my favorite parts of Infinity War. And one of my favorite parts of Endgame. Hawkeye, I love the Hawkeye character. Black Widow, are you kidding me? Both in Civil War and in Winter Soldier. And she's a great character. But I have never felt like either one of them should have their own standalone thing. Now, there have been a lot of things I've thought shouldn't get their own, like the Miles Morales Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. I thought that movie was a stupid idea. I shit all over that movie for a year before it came out. How dumb of an idea it was. No one cares about Miles Morales. Oh, look at the trailer. That animation style sucks. And now it is my number one, right up there with Spider-Man 2, but it's my number one all-time favorite Spider-Man movie. Again, maybe tied with Spider-Man 2. And I love that movie. So I was totally ready to absolutely love Black Widow, and I was totally ready to absolutely love Hawkeye. I was totally ready to love it. But they just didn't work for me. That's all. Nothing wrong with that. It's okay. All right. John Redcorn also writes, P.S. I could care less about an Echo spinoff. Like, why? Look, I said going into the finale, they really need to do something special with Echo to make me care. Because I will straight up tell you, I have no interest in an Echo show. I just watched her for a number of episodes. I'm like, I don't care about this character. She wasn't bad as a piece of the puzzle in the Hawkeye show. Like, she's fine as a secondary or even a third level character in the Hawkeye show. That was fine. But now that I've seen her for a few episodes, I have no interest in watching her standalone show. I'm totally down for a Yelena standalone show. Hell, I'm totally down for a Yelena and Kate Bishop standalone show. Sign me up for that. I'll be down. But the Echo show, I have zero interest in that show as of this moment. I have no interest in it. And which is unfortunate because I thought the girl who played her was able to emote pretty damn well. And I thought she played the character exactly the way it was written. The way they wrote the character, I just didn't think it was all that good. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Next up, Solar Eclipse Productions writes, with the conclusion of Hawkeye, my favorite of the year, one show of, let me try this again. With the conclusion of Hawkeye, my favorites of the year one shows on Disney Plus is number 1, WandaVision, number 2, Loki, number 3, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, number 4, Hawkeye, number 5, What If. Can't wait for next year's lot. You know what? I completely agree with your listing as well, except for one thing. I would personally swap out Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's it though. Like everything else is completely the same. My number 1 is WandaVision. My number 4 is Hawkeye. My number 5 is What If. I would just probably, for me, think Falcon the Winter Soldier was just a little bit over Loki. But other than that, I am right in line with you there, Solar Eclipse. Thanks for writing that in, man. All right. Solar Eclipse also writes in, and by the way, I just noticed he put in like a $26 super chat. Thank you for supporting our channel on that level, dude. Appreciate it very much, man. And Solar Eclipse writes, Hawkeye was a show I wanted to love as I love Kate and Clint through the pacing of the show in episodes 1 and 2. The rush conclusion in 6 and pointless post-credit scene let me down, though I love episodes 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, that's kind of my same breakdown as well. When I sit back and look at Hawkeye, did not like episode 1, did not like episode 2, really didn't like episode 6. I liked episode 3. I kind of liked episode 4. I really liked episode 5. So I'm with you. It's like the bookends of the series didn't get off to a good start and it didn't have a very good finish. The middle stuff for me pretty much worked. Honestly, if I had missed episodes 1 and 2 and I never got around to watching episode 6 and all I saw was episodes 3, 4, and 5, I would have thought this is a show I probably really liked. Probably one that I really liked. Unfortunately, though, I did see episodes 1 and 2, and I did see episode 6. So, there's that. All right. Thanks a lot for that, Solar Eclipse. Appreciate that, man. Thank you for the support. All right. Maddie D writes, where are we at? There he is. I was kind of hoping that in the post-credit scene, someone like Peter Parker or even Loki was watching the musical. Pretty underwhelming episode, in my opinion. You know what? See, okay, I'm not saying Peter Parker or anything like that, but if they had had somebody in the crowd, then it would have served as a post-credit scene. It would have been both a good way to show the musical number to the world and make it a legit post-credit scene. And I'll tell you, my buddy Ryan, who was watching it with us last night, he said immediately as they started the musical number, he goes, I bet you anything old man Steve Rogers is in the audience. And I went, that would be awesome. And I totally believed it. If they were getting close to the end of the musical number and the camera is at the back of the auditorium looking at the stage, but then the camera swings around and we start looking at the faces of the audience members, and then it comes in close, we see one older gentleman sitting near the back, and it's old man Steve Rogers, and that's it. Then the screen could have gone black, and that's it. Then it could have served both purposes. Right? I think that, so anybody, even if it was, what if Natasha was sitting back there? That changes everything. Well, of course there wasn't going to be Natasha. What if Tony Stark was back there? Or what if it was Peter? Or what if it was White Vision? What if it was White Vision kind of in his transmuted human form? And then we see him get up out after, at the end of the musical number, step into the hallway, and as he steps into a hallway where nobody is, he transforms back into his White Vision. What if it was old man Steve? What if it was Mephisto? I'm just kidding about that. But, it could have served a couple of different purposes at the same time. Or what if Matt Murdock? Well, okay, that would have been dumb. Why would Matt Murdock, a blind man, be sitting at a musical? Okay, maybe that one, maybe not Matt Murdock, but Almost any other character. Almost any other character. All right. Let's see here. Where are we at? Elizabeth Gerardo writes in. I personally like the show. Love the way they portrayed being deaf or going deaf. As someone who wears hearing aid, I 100% understood Clint. Listen, I love that part of the show. Which is why once we got into episodes 3 and 4 and stuff like that, I was really starting to feel it because I love the idea of them showing us. One of the things that really worked in this show for me was reminding us that not only is Clint just human, but he has accumulated a lot of physical trauma and emotional trauma. And to me, when this show was even working its best was when we are reminded and seeing Clint having to deal with the physical trauma, whether it's his hearing, the sore shoulder, the cuts and the bruises and the busted up ribs and all that kind of stuff, or the emotional trauma, like thinking of Natasha and feeling whatever, the sense of inadequacy as a husband because he's separated from his family at Christmas time. Like when it was focusing on that stuff, Elizabeth, that's when the show really sung for me. And that's the part about Echo that I like too, like showing this badass super villain / hero with not only a hearing impairment, but also a missing legs. Like that's when it was working, but it never came into play much after that, which was kind of unfortunate for me. All right, next up, Aaron McDonough writes, John, what the hell was that? This show has been so bad. Nothing will top WandaVision for me, if I'm being honest. And here's the thing, Aaron, I didn't need Hawkeye to top WandaVision. That's a high bar. I mean, I freaking loved WandaVision. I thought it was awesome. Hawkeye didn't need to be better than WandaVision or top WandaVision. Just be really good. And I didn't think it was terrible because like I said, I liked half the episodes, like 3, 4, and 5. I enjoyed 3, 4, and 5. I really liked 5. Unfortunately, I didn't like 1 and 2, and I really didn't like 6. So, I mean, so it's kind of in that zone for me there. But yeah, it didn't need to top WandaVision. That's fine. But yeah, I found the show to be a bit of a letdown too. Our viewer Peter sends in a $50 super chat badge. Thank you, Peter, for supporting our channel on that level, man. Deeply appreciate. Didn't even send in a comment, just a tip support. Thank you, Peter, very much. Elizabeth Gerardo also writes, the thing I hated about the show was I felt Hawkeye was only created to bring in people like Echo without fleshing them out. You know, I definitely felt that in episodes 1 and 2. I felt like, come on, like the only reason Jeremy Renner's even in this show, he's only here. He's basically a jobber. Not in the literal sense that he would lose fights, but he was just there to bring in the other characters and to highlight and showcase the other characters. Like, honestly, the first 2 episodes shouldn't have even been called Hawkeye. It should have just been called Kate Bishop. But John, you see in the comics, Kate Bishop. Yeah. Fuck, I understand. I know the comics. But this is the show. And it kind of felt like even the opening credit titles was just all Kate Bishop. And it's like, And then it felt like it was just to bring in Echo. And come on. Now, granted, though, once we got into episode 3, I felt like the show then turned its focus to Clint. And so even though I have a bunch of complaints about the Hawkeye series, at the end of the day, I didn't feel like Clint was just used as nothing but a useless tool just to bring in other characters. I felt like the show's focus was Clint, at least once we got to episode 3. So episodes 3, 4, 5, and even the terrible episode 6, I did feel like Clint was clearly the focus of the show. And to me, from episodes 3 on, it truly did become a Hawkeye series. I didn't like the way it started, but I actually kind of felt they went in the right direction after that. All right, next up, Elizabeth Gerardo also writes, and I'm 100% certain Kingpin ain't dead. No doubts about that, Elizabeth. 100% he's not dead. 100% he's not dead. Whoever he is. Lori Adamson writes, Hawkeye was okay, but nothing to write home about. I didn't have any issues in making a drink or going to the bathroom without pausing the show at any stage. That is a huge commentary, Lori. That is a huge commentary. Like, yeah, I'm watching a show. Like seriously, like when I'm watching something either with Ann or other friends and they go to the bathroom and I go, you want to pause it? And they go, no, it's okay. That's a pretty clear sign that they're not actually enjoying the show all that much, right? So you making that comment, Lori, pretty much a pretty clear signal, yeah, that the show wasn't all that great to you. All right, next up, Delusional Patriots fan writes, I do agree this Kingpin was a caricature of what we came to love. Yes, the shirt. It's like when I'm sorry. Is that Kingpin Wilson Fisk wearing a Hawaiian shirt with his iconic white jacket? Like, is that what's going on there? Is Kingpin in a room filled with bead curtains? Is that what was going on? Like I had to do. And again, all that is to say is that this is a different Kingpin from the Netflix universe. And I'm okay with that. That could actually be great. It's just that they didn't make him a very good new Kingpin. That's the problem, delusional. All right. Martindale Mick writes, Kate going toe-to-toe with a superpowered Kingpin was so stupid. If anything, that should have been Hawkeye's fight. He's the one that feared him. Yeah, but that's not how the story went, right? The character Kate ended up in that situation with Kingpin because he was going after her mom and she was at her mom. Narratively, it made sense that she ended up getting in that fight with Kingpin. And I'm going to defend the fight. I actually thought the fight was fine. Kingpin was kicking the shit out of her. She was putting up a valiant effort, but she was getting tossed around like a rag doll. And then she managed to use her ingenuity and contextual awareness to set off the explosive and get out of there with her life. I personally have no problem with that. I thought that was fine. Now, if she actually went in there and actually went toe-to-toe with Kingpin, that would have been bullshit. But she didn't go toe-to-toe with Kingpin. She tried. She tried valiantly, but he was beating the shit out of her. And then she, again, used her ingenuity and used a circumstance that he was right on top of the explosive, made it work, and she escaped with her life. I'm perfectly fine with how that fight went down. With all the complaints I have about the episode, I don't have a complaint about that. Just to be honest. So I see it a little bit differently than you do on that one. Okay, next up. We got Zishan, who writes, Jack, so anyway, I started stabbing. Seriously, dude killed at least 5 people. How on earth did Kate take multiple hits from Kingpin? First of all, yes, Jack murdered many people. I got stabby. Jack went all stabby, slicey. Oop, was that your artery? So sorry, old chap. I got some blood on me. Yeah, he canceled a lot of people's memberships to life. He canceled a lot of life subscriptions in that episode. He murdered people, which is fine. I mean, they were the bad guys. Bro, you stabbed me. And yes, there is no way. Kate is a regular human girl. A regular human. If you're taking shots and being thrown through walls and taking punches to your body that literally send your body sailing through the air 20 feet, that kind of impact shattering all your ribs. If you're Captain America, I get it. If you're Iron Man in a suit of armor, I get it. If you're Thor, the God of Thunder, I get it. You're just a regular human. And if you're going to take a shot that would literally throw you 20 feet through the air, your ribs are shattered. But whatever. Whatever. Suspension of disbelief, Zishan. Suspension of disbelief. All right. Next up. Where are we at here? Cam K writes, looks like they were assembling the arrows. Yeah, I mean, it was to me, if they were doing that over a course of weeks, I would get it. Otherwise, it seemed kind of they were literally doing welding and doing. Sanchez writes, hi, John, longtime fan of you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Sanchez. Not a big fan of Hawkeye. The humor was just way too over the top and childish. You know what? I'm going to say, sometimes the humor worked for me quite well in it. I mean, the Kate Bishop character didn't always work for me, but I warmed up to her. The Jack character, I started off hating, but I grew to warm up to it. I gotta say, I hated the tracksuit mafia, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I started finding them kind of entertaining by the end. But it's hard to take. Here's the thing. They tried to do both. With the tracksuit mafia, you either got to make them fearsome and make us believe these are just straight up murderous killers, or you got to make us feel that, hey, look, these are just guys and they can be kind of funny and jovial and stuff like that. Bro, wanted to thank you, bro. We went to see Maroon 5. But you can't do both. You can't try to make them seem endearing, which I did. I got endeared by them. To be honest with you, I did. But you can't do that and make us believe that these are fearsome killers that need to be murdered in the streets in order to be stopped. Like, Jack had no choice but to slice them up. Hawkeye and Kate put a lot of live arrows into their bodies, right? And they try to make us do both. They try to pass them off as actual fearsome villains, but also as these quasi-likable, charming goofballs. They try to make us as the audience believe both, and by trying to make us buy into both, they failed at both. They should have picked one. Say, hey, they're just the goofy henchmen. They're actually likable guys who aren't evil, and they're just trying to act tough because of who they are. Okay, then go that route. No, these people will murder you. These are serious, hardcore villains that they will murder you if you get in the way of what they're trying to accomplish. Okay, go with that. To try to go in both directions was folly. I think it was a mistake to try to get the audience to buy into them as both. That's just kind of my take on it. All right, next up. Fifi writes, all this chaos and it takes 20 plus minutes for the cops to arrive. I agree, Fifi. Also, didn't they say that the LARPers are police officers? I'm confused. Well, no, I think one of them was a police officer. I think one of them was a firefighter. One of them was a police officer. I can't remember what the other ones were, but they weren't all cops. At least I don't think they were all cops. But yeah, why didn't she, instead of, their people aren't listening to us, well, let's walk inside for 5 minutes, change our clothes, and come out. Why didn't she come out in her police uniform? Well, she only brought her LARPing costume. Why would you bring only your LARPing costume if you're a cop? I don't know. And then the last one, guys, comes to us from Dragon10, who doesn't write in anything, just sends in a super chat badge to be supportive. Thank you, Dragon10. I appreciate that. And that, guys, will do it for not just episode 6, but for our post-spoiler discussions of the Hawkeye series. Guys, thank you very much. By the way, Patrick West just sent in a super chat badge as well to be supportive. Thank you, Patrick West. I appreciate that, man. A big thank you to all you guys for watching through the show with me. Thank you for being here and discussing Hawkeye with me. Thank you to everybody who sent in the comments and everything in the super chats, because number one, you gave us really interesting points of view on the show, and you supported our channel while you did it, and all of us at the John Campea Show. Thank you guys very much for that support. And thanks for hanging out with there and giving me people to watch Hawkeye with. And guys, next week, maybe some of you loved Hawkeye. That's great. There's obviously a bunch of us who are kind of disappointed in it, but it doesn't matter. Next week starts the Book of Boba Fett. And we will be doing post discussions on the Book of Boba Fett. So make sure you guys come back and join us for that as well. Don't forget to join me and Kim and Ray all in our Christmas sweaters tomorrow for the John Campea Show. But for now, guys, that'll do it. Thanks a lot for being here, everybody. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bro.